Nation. We're back.
Megan, we're back.
We
the
are
golden hat is back.
Back in Austin where it belongs, baby. I love it. I love it.
Welcome back. Another episode of Fire the Cannon. I'm Rocky.
And I'm Megan. And we are Fire the Cannon with a very special guest. Very special guest is joining us today.
Yes.
Can we give a quick shout out to our buddy KEVIN Dunn, KD?
Yay, we're just going to bring you right in. The party started, KD.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Golden hat is back. KEVIN Dunn is back.
Yeah, well, it's always fun coming with y'all, especially, you know, this shows you guys we have a ball doing it. But like, this is a weird week because usually after OU, remember in the Big 12, we'd go to Colorado, and that could be a big game if you just came off like what Oklahoma dealt with, where it's like, where's our program? We got blown out. We don't belong on the field. But it's weird that this is a bigger game. That was a weird OU game because Texas didn't play that well and thoroughly dominated them, and it just didn't matter. And I know OU's banged up, but I think there's more to the story than just that.
Listen. Oh yes, we'll talk about it. So we're so glad to have you, KEVIN Dunn. Everyone knows who you are. You've done radio, media, all the things in Austin and Texas, and nationally for years and years. So thanks for joining us. You're also our good friend.
Yeah.
So we're so happy you're here. So we're going to talk about it. Megan was at the game. I was watching at ACL. We're going to talk before, during, and after the massive win. Texas gets the golden hat back to Austin. It's back at DKR where it belongs. We will talk about the good, the bad, like Sark says, the good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to talk about this rivalry. Sark's press conference, he had some great comments today. There was some interesting stuff too from the OU media admitting that beatdown. Some people had to eat some crow about some of the stuff they said about Texas players. We'll talk about it. Who we loved, what they need to work on again before this big Georgia game this weekend. We'll also touch a little bit on the Georgia game, but our big preview is Thursday. Katie, you also wanted to talk bigger college football picture. We'll talk about that. Cool. Megan, let's just catch up first. How was your weekend? You were at the game, I know, but it was a long weekend.
It was great, man. Listen, it's always a great weekend when my Longhorns, my Lions, and my Texans win. And it was certainly that for me again this weekend. Had an absolute blast. Had to rock out like we do up at the state fair, have a great time. So it was nice. It was because of the later kickoff. I tailgate with a group that's up there that actually has property that's at the corner of like Perry and Fletcher. So it is right there at the state fairgrounds, and it's private parking, which is really, really nice. But in years past, when we've had that 11 a.m. kickoff, like it doesn't matter how late I'm out the night before, I'm up at 5 a.m. to get down there by 6 a.m. to help them set up, help everything get going. And this time we rolled in at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and it was great. It was nice to have kind of that little break from the normal stuff, tailgate for a little bit, and then head into the stadium early. So it was a good time. Had a lot of fun. And then of course on Sunday I was very fortunate. A friend of ours, Rocky, Adam, invited me to the Dallas game. Now again, he is a Cowboys fan. And I was very clear. I was like, I will not be wearing Cowboys gear. I will be in my Lions obnoxious getup. He goes, oh, girl, bring it. Let's do this. So we actually ended up where we were sitting was with a lot of Lions fans. So I had a great weekend. I had a ton of fun. Definitely dragging ass a little bit today, as I headed back this morning and picked up the dogs. So but it was good. It was good. How was ACL?
ACL was crazy crowded, and I actually got the survey today in the mail because I don't know if they really care about my opinion, but I had to let them know there's so many great choices of food and things, but the prices have gotten outrageous for the tiny food you get, and the drink prices have gotten outrageous. I mean, I paid it because you're stuck there and you're hungry and you're thirsty.
What are your options?
$14 can of something. And so they had this, I think the best deal ended up being, okay, so there's a little mini carafe that's like maybe 2 drinks in it, $38 Frozen margarita, one size, $22.
Those are Jerry World prices.
It's gotten pretty ridiculous, and I made a note, like, have more options under $10. That would be great. Like, I should be able to get food and a drink for $20. Can we do that? Because you're making money, right? And they still need more bathrooms. There's a million porta potties or whatever, but the lines are too long. You can spend half a show waiting to pee. So, but I still go every year. And the best part was watching the Texas game under the big tent with tons of Longhorn fans, standing room only, like packed, crowded. One of the biggest shows of the weekend was the Texas game under the big AC.
I love it.
You watch the game.
I watched it. You know what? I was able to, and it's been fun because for 30 years I've covered stuff on Saturday. So I've always been working and had to kind of rewatch stuff unless it was that one off week on Sunday and Monday. So I just spent the whole day on watch college football and just absolutely ate it up. Obviously the Texas game was great, but I mean, it's been the last 3 weekends. It's the sport that under promises and over delivers. And there's not many things in life or people you run into that do that. Usually it's the other way around. Lots of promises, not much delivery,
Right.
or not as much as they promise. And so even last weekend, when it looked like on paper it was going to be a bad weekend, it was a great weekend. And this weekend was great. I mean, it does help that Texas is playing the way they are. I'll be honest about that, but I love the sport separate of Texas. So when the sport's really fun to watch and my team's kicking ass, like, man, it's Saturday it could last for 3 weeks and it wouldn't be long enough.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth.
All right. So let's get into it. Texas beat OU down 34-3. And like you mentioned earlier, it was an ugly game for Texas. Quinn had one of his worst games in a long time since maybe his, red shirt freshman year. Like it's been a minute since he had a game that rough. OU had a strong plan, all the emotion. They came out ready to go, but you know what? Slow and steady, right? Won the course. And how did you feel? Let's talk about that. How did you feel where you're like, oh no, here we go again? Or like, we're good when he threw that first interception?
I'll be curious because I'm going to be giving you the on the couch, and when you're there, like Megan was, I know it can be a different feel. So I was calm and cool, and I was like, and a lot of it was just getting another eyeball on OU, and I've seen them enough, and they just don't have firepower. And by the way, the quarterback situation, that's not 5 wide receivers being out. That's not bad luck. And they've had some bad luck, and with the offensive line too. Right. But that's on you, the coaching staff. Like, I don't know how you let number 8 get out of town thinking that Jackson Arnold is the next big coming. And I'll be honest too. I know people will hear this and be like, well, it's because you hate A&M and OU. No, I can be objective. Right. And there are some, obviously, OU quarterback prospects, like 10 of them on my mind the last 20 years that I thought, oh, this guy's going to be great. And they usually were. With A&M, I would say I never really bought Haynes King. With OU, and I'm talking about watching them in high school, I never bought the hype with Jackson Arnold. I thought he was a really good player, but not one that you'd let Dylan Gabriel walk out the door for, even if it's 1 year, to get this kid going right away, because he's clearly not ready, and the offensive line and people around him aren't helping him.
Yeah. I have to agree with that. Look, when the interception happened live and in person, I think in years past, it would have been like, oh, shit, here we go again. But there was just kind of like, well, that sucked, but it didn't feel game ending. It didn't feel like, oh, this thing's over before it started, know? And with the confidence that we have, in our defense, and honestly, I'll say this too, everybody, not just Quinn, everybody on the team, their body language, how they were acting, like it didn't seem to phase them. So I'm like, if they're not worried, I'm not worried. Right. And then of course, OU gets the ball back with great field position. Texas defense makes a really good stop, and then they miss the field goal immediately off of that. So, that certainly OU underperforming in that opportunity that they were given. And then just the body language of Texas and the players and the coaches, like it was like, all right, okay, moving on, next place. Right. And so that for me it was nice. It was nice being at the game, like not nice that it happened, But it's a different feeling as a Texas fan now to go, okay, a turnover here, a slow start. Quinn definitely looked rusty, but you're not as worried about it. You don't go, oh God, this could change the trajectory of the whole game, right? I felt maybe overly so, but felt pretty confident after that. It was okay. Things are going to be okay.
This is like the release of our PTSD. Trey Elling calls it UTSD, which I kind of like, but as UT fans, this 15 years of, oh my God, what's going to happen? Like, if you imagine being an Arkansas fan watching them play A&M every year, I mean, you would expect your quarterback to pass out in the end zone. Oh, there's a safety. That's how we lost, literally, how we lost. Because you expect it, And last year, we still had it because it was the first year. So, I mean, even towards the end, I was like, what's going to happen? Something's going to happen. Let me guess. We've got a 32-year-old drinking coffee who's one of our DBs who's going to, get all these wins taken away. Oh, wait a minute. That already happened. And so I think this year I'm realizing in situations like that, because I'm with you, you can see their body language. You kind of know the team. And I'm just not worried like I used to be.
Right.
And part of that, I could tell OU sucked.
Right. There's just a confidence level in Texas. I think that we as fans haven't had in a very long time. Again, the proof is in the pudding. We're 6 games in now. We're halfway through our regular season. And Texas has played with a confidence. They don't always play a perfect game. We saw that in this game. This was probably Texas's ugliest performance, to be honest. And even still, there's this level of confidence. There's this level of execution where they're going to go to work. And, we talk about this, and Stark mentioned this in the presser. It's that culture, right? The culture is there. We say that word to death on here. I know we probably talk about it too much, but that's exactly what it is. It's just the culture of they know what to do. They know where it's going. They know, they understand the why. They understand what they need to do to be a better team. And despite having some bumps, having a rough start, having, some mistakes here and there, they shake it off. They move on because this is a business. That's that work and that culture where they have each other's backs. They know what to expect from each other and what to expect from the coaches. So I think that's a really nice feeling for Texas fans, certainly, to watch happen and to watch this team really come into their own and figure things out.
All right, so let's start with the atmosphere of the game at Cotton Bowl. You mentioned it was really different this week as being a 2:30 kickoff. People had more time to mosey up. I know it was hot as hell on Saturday again in October, right? October 12th, and it was burning hot. What was the atmosphere like? With people cool and calm? Were there lots of Longhorns in the OU section because they were selling their tickets so cheap?
Yeah, there were, honestly. I don't know if this shows up on TV as well, but you could see pretty clearly more burnt orange spots in the crimson side than I've seen in the past. It was certainly noticeable. Like I pointed out, I was like, dang, look at all the Texas fans over there. There's quite a bit going. So, it was interesting. Where I was sitting, I was kind of down in front of where Bevo is, on the 13th row there. So with the later start, it is hotter in the day. You don't have that morning coolness necessarily as the game goes on. But one upside to it, of being at least on the side that I was on, is that the sun sets, right? The sun's already farther down in the day than it would have been at the 11 a.m. start. So as the sun is setting and going down, you're starting to get more and more of that shade from the west side of the stadium kind of covering everybody. So yes, it was hot, but it was
kind of cool, Megan, to see the shadows again, because it brought me back to Stoney Clark. It brought me back to Maud Brooks picking off Hypo in 99. Like, I was like, oh my God, I forgot. And it also brought me back to Sims and Teddy Lehman, like some bad memories. I was like, oh God, I remember the shade here,
Yeah, and it does. I mean, it changes, the vision, it changes how the players see things. But yeah, I would say it was really hot, but it didn't. I have certainly been to hotter games, and so this didn't feel like just, oh, I want to die. I'm melting into the seat. There was actually a bit of a breeze that was coming down into the stadium. So it wasn't, I mean, yes, it was hot. It was way too hot for Texas at this time of year, but it wasn't miserable like it could have been, in my opinion.
Are they doing a lot of construction? Because I know they're putting like 120 in. They can't put in suites, which I'm kind of glad. They're like all these super rich people. One of the guys I know was sitting around all these just billionaire Houston and Dallas guys. And it's the one time they've got to be with the commoners. They
can't
tweet on the 45 and have champagne delivered. It's like, no, you got to go get a beer guy like the rest of us. This is Wrigley.
Right. You're going to drink beer from wax cups like the rest of us.
Restroom like the rest.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you mentioned, okay, so it's 2:30 game. That also helped a lot of recruits get there for this game. Most of them were it's OU was the home team, so they got to invite recruits. But there were some recruits that really are high on Texas that were there and got to see Texas win. It was also an opportunity, being that mid-afternoon game, there was some NFL Longhorns in the NFL that got to come. And Megan, you shared this picture of our favorite, Jordan Whittington, and with Bevo. Tell us about, you loved his love for Bevo, right?
Yeah,
that's his BFF, man. I think
is his BFF.
Only one who knows steers better is Megan.
Oh, I don't know about that. No, listen. Jay Witt's a good old Cuero boy, right? Like he loves, he's country at heart for sure, and he's always loved Bevo. So seeing him be up there and be excited to see him. I mean, literally, I saw Jay Witt come up, and he just made a beeline just straight over to Bevo's pen to say hi. And he stood there for a while, chatting with the Spurs a little bit, but making googly eyes at Bevo and telling him hi. It was great. So yeah, listen, I love to see that. I as you guys know, we've got the Longhorns, and I have a special connection with them. I think it's normal. I call them my grass puppies. They all have their personal, like their individual personalities, and they all act certain ways, and they're smarter than people give them credit for. But so I can appreciate that special kind of bond that he's got with his Bevo is his bestie.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we had, before the last weekend when we did our big preview show, we were lucky enough to get Quan Cosby and Rod Babers, lifetime Longhorn legends. Our buddy Chuck. Isn't that great? Yeah, that was pretty awesome. They talked and talked about their experiences in the Red Rivalry, and just the heatedness and the like everything's turned up in this game. But we had some fun predictions, Megan. We made some bold predictions. Quan thought there might be OU might have a fake punt. That didn't happen. But Rod was in on that double pass trick play. We saw it twice.
That's what he did. So I'm not shocked, working with Rod forever, that Rod was in on that. But Quan's prediction was actually pretty smart. And you know what? They probably could have used one. Why not?
They could have used it.
Like,
Quan would have been a better coach. Listen.
I mean, at some point, they were kind of like the Cowboys last night, where I'm like, man, the Cowboys offense is impressive. This Aubrey guy has a leg, and that's their offense. Like, the only offense they would have had would have been trick plays.
They should have just kicked the field goal anytime they got within the 4.
Just go for the field goal.
Instead of throwing interceptions. All right, Megan, you thought there would be a big man touchdown. That didn't happen, but Chuck did make a good call that there would be a big punt return finally in this game. Yep. We saw Bolden was able to bring one back. Mine was that Quinn would throw for 330 yards and 4 touchdowns. There were 4 touchdowns in this game, but had Quinn actually hit the people, he could have thrown for 5. I thought he would come back sharper. We saw that didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
But you mentioned Chuck did have a great prediction about this game, about the 6 sacks. He thought.
Yeah, he did. He threw it out there, and he said, Chuck was like, "All right, I think there's going to be 6 sacks for Texas," which that's probably the closest the bold. I mean, Rod nailed his bold prediction, but Chuck got pretty dang close there too. Yeah. I think Texas ended with 5 sacks. And 30 pressures. Listen, I would hate to be in that O-line room on Sunday and Monday. That had to be a pretty miserable place to live as an OU O-lineman. It couldn't have been too fun. But, watching Texas put that pressure on and really keep it on, it was just consistent. And that's something we talked about, keys to the game, right? You've got a young quarterback who is kind of untested with things like this. We know he's got a propensity to run. We know that he doesn't always read down properly. And so if you can get him pressured and you can get him making some bad decisions, bad choices, Texas would be in a good position. And that definitely came to play for sure.
Yeah, we have to give Johnny Nansen a lot of credit, who's I think had a big influence working with PK. Give PK a ton of credit. I mean, us Texas fans, we had been in 4 or 5 bad relationships and we're ready to cut ties after 3 dates. By the time Sark and his staff got here, it was like, whoa, man, like, let's give this some time. PK had proven himself as a legit DC. He needed time. And my question was more about Terry Joseph and Gideon working together with him. And that's the DBs look light years better. But Megan, you're right. Like the front and the pressures are bringing. I mean, when you can bring Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons from opposite sides, which they did, and then let out, you guys know how much I know it's a weird brand of reverse racism, but how much I love my Polynesian football players. And
yes.
He is like spiking up the list for me. The guy's instincts, athletic, tough, great tackler, and he was smart. He was spying them, but just he feels stuff. And that's my theory. I think Polynesians have a sixth sense in football.
I wouldn't doubt it. They're always 10 steps ahead of the play.
I'm going to go back to the Seinfeld episode. Is it racist if I love the race? I don't know. But no, I mean, the pressures they're getting, the talent they have, but they were really smart because what killed them last year with Dylan Gabriel was he was able to take off because he had running lanes because the defensive ends get too far up the field, right? They were getting up but collapsing the pocket and then bringing different guys at times on blitzes or stunts, and they were just beating their guys one-on-one. You know, you mentioned the offensive line. Bill Beadenbow is one of the top offensive line coaches in the last 25 years in college football. I mean, he's up there with Harry Heastan. There's like a list of 3 of them, and he's one of them, maybe numero uno. And I hate to say it, but that's how good their lines have been. Megan, you're right. That must have been a tough Monday. But he also knows he's not dealing with some of the first and second round picks he's had before.
Right. And look, we've mentioned this before. I think something that's kind of was put on display here. I think Venables is a great defensive-minded coach. He's a great DC. Yeah. He's a great DC. I've been saying this for the season. I am just not convinced that he has all the tools right now to be a really good head coach as far as being able to manage and allow, bring the right staff in, bring the right people in. And we're starting to see some of the cracks, right? We're starting to see a pretty big fall off. It is hard for me to recall an OU team that looks this sloppy so quickly, right? Compared to where they've been in recent years.
1998 is the only one that comes to mind, that John Blake year where they couldn't line up.
Yeah.
But it was literally that. And I didn't think I was going to see that again.
Right. Yeah. It just seems like there's trouble in the water in Norman. It feels like, with what's going on with the Sooners. So, at a certain point, how much of this is on Venables, how much of this is on, the players themselves, how much of it is on his coaching staff. But at the end of the day, where he is the head that wears a crown, right? He's the guy that's in charge of everybody. And as you mentioned earlier, KD, how do you let Dylan Gabriel go? How do you allow him to leave? Like, you can't tell me their collective doesn't have money. If money was an issue, you do everything you can to keep your experienced quarterback who is a Heisman contender there. To me, that felt like a very arrogant kind of OU move. Like, we've always had great quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They're not actually looking at their situation. They're just going on kind of like Texas did for a while. Oh, we're Texas. We can manage it. We've got great talent. Next man up, when and the talent wasn't being developed, right? That just felt like we're OU. We've always cranked out quarterbacks like crazy. Well, y'all are in a different year. You're in a different era now. And that just seemed like a silly move to let him go.
It did. I mean, there's one backup quarterback this year I can think of, and that's just what he was last year. He didn't show enough, but there's one backup quarterback this year that I can see going into the offseason. You go, you know what? Go ahead. We're okay. And he's in Austin right now. So, and I wouldn't have said that last year at this time with Arch. I wanted to see it. But right now we've seen it, and you could feel comfortable enough to go, yeah, like he's gonna be our dude. And that was just not the case if you're being objective with it with Jackson Arnold. Once again, getting back to objective, Megan and I just said it. They had been quarterback you for 15, 20, like those are facts. So we're not trying to, hate on the OU's tradition because they got statues lined up around that damn place with them. But this guy ain't it. And they put themselves in that spot.
Right. I'd agree with that wholeheartedly.
All right. Well, we compared the rosters going into this game, starting at quarterback all the way down. There wasn't a position group where we would take theirs over Texas position group. Even their vaunted front seven started strong, but then didn't have answers. This was the best running game that Texas has had in a while, right? Texas was able to lean on that versatility, and sometimes they win by throwing for 400 yards. Sometimes they got to win by defense hanging on until the run game gets going. Like they have all these different ways to win, which is why they're the best team in the country. When they win this game, one of the big traditions we know is the golden hat, right? They get to bring the golden hat back. One of my favorite things, and this was kind of sad when we were at the game watching ACL because we were rushing over to get to an artist that I told Nadia, 6 o'clock, but this game will be over by 6. So we're watching the game, we're cheering, having fun, and then we leave. But one of my favorite things is to see the players and the fans, the coaches and everybody with the golden hat, pass it around, take pictures. But they did share. So we'll share a couple things. Of course, Texas football hat.
See y'all from Texas, where we should ride swangers and put diamonds in our necklace.
So they had to show the hats back in the case, right? Here's Quinn being awesome and putting the hat on. Can you imagine how happy he is for this legacy game to have that hat back? Passing the hat to Michael Staff. Helm and Staff. Oh, they look so good. And the student. And then this became a famous picture that they posted before, right? Of him up in the crowd. Oh, Taff.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It's so fun. Do y'all love that when like the pictures they become epic, like legendary?
Listen, again, iconic to me, will always stick out in my head is the Charlie Strong. And the year that we had absolutely no business, 2015, absolutely no business beating OU. And Charlie Strong coming in and out of nowhere, winning that game. What sticks out to me is that picture of him with the golden hat on and the finger that looks like E.T.'s finger.
The E.T. finger.
Yeah, long as hell. But just the smile. I mean, that's pure joy there. And I love it. I love seeing the guys celebrate. We know that this has been a long time coming, and this is, work. Their work is paying off, all the blood, sweat, and tears that they put in. So happy to see the joy. But I will say something I was happy about too, is every single player in the presser afterward. Sark talked about this. The players have talked about this. Yeah, cool. We beat OU. We're glad. Next game, we got Georgia next, right?
Yeah.
Where in years past, this was a thing that they would linger on it, and this was a defining moment for the program. And in years past, it has been. But I think that just speaks to maturity and speaks to the progress of this team and the progress of this program to say, yep, we just beat our most hated rival in deciding definitive fashion. We're happy about it. Moving on. Next game. This is not the end for us. Like we got a lot more to accomplish. So I liked seeing that too.
I think that's a fantastic point, because there is, and how many coaches have figured it out, whether you're the number one team in the country, or it's easier actually where Texas has been there, 3-5 going into this. Cause like, dude, this is our season. We're probably not even going bowling. Like we want the 89 team to be remembered for something. Okay. And not the 50-7 game we're going to lose to Baylor later on at, Memorial. But I can tell you about the 89, 28, 24 win for that team that wasn't glorious. So, but for the teams that are really good, finding the balance of keeping it business-like, certainly after, but even before, when you've got Georgia and all this stuff, we'll get into it later, but you could argue they have the toughest schedule the rest of the way in the country. And I think they're already 8th by adjusted metrics. And that changes as the season goes on, because all of a sudden Vandy looks a little different than we thought,
Vandy might be a trap game here.
When Florida is the easiest game and they've got a 5-star quarterback, and I know they're a shit show, but loads of talent, like that's not what I want to be the easiest game the rest of the way. But finding the balance of not getting too high, but getting high enough, because I've seen those teams that the 89 team beat, number 6 in the country, that came in, and I don't think they had the fire early on. They thought they were just going to walk through it and let's worry about Colorado in a couple of weeks, right. And they found that balance, man. And OU helped with it, but I loved all the comments I've heard. I mean, look, culture is overused so much because it's so important. So like anything, you hear it used all the time. But in actuality, they're actually not talking about what is the right thing or the right part of culture. You can see it. And we can see it the last couple of years working with these kids. I can see it. Like there is a business-like approach to almost all these guys.
Right. Yeah.
By the way, it's showing. I was looking at top 100 prospects from multiple NFL scouts. Texas is going to litter the top 3 rounds again. They could have 4 first-rounders. Long way to go. I get that. But they could have 4. They could have multiple guys go in the second, multiple guys go in the third. Like it's paying off for them too, literally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's something we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Just watching Jahdae Barron, especially, like his draft stock has been skyrocketing.
Cam Williams is in multiple first-round picks. My little Cam. I say my little Cam, but it was just a sweet young kid that came in 2 or 3 years ago. I remember meeting with him, and he's gigantic. He's like Leonard Davis, but he's the sweetest thing in the world. And he's starting to get some attitude on the field. And I love it. Like
it's showing.
And being a bad guy off. He's always going to be a sweetheart. But I want to get a little bit of that dog on the field. And I think scouts are seeing that. And he's got great feet for a guy that you can't build his size. You just can't.
Right.
Speaking of Jahdae, here's some attitude. Don't move and take this whooping. Told you it was coming sooner, not later. So we know their motto behind the scenes has been belt to ass, right? He brought his belt. He brought his Quinn shirt.
I love everything about this.
I love this stuff.
I love Jahdae rocking the Quinn shirt as he's talking trash with the golden hat on. Like everything about it. Mwah. Chef's kiss. No, 10 of 10.
All right, Megan, you were also at the game. Tell us, what did this Mike Craven shared that video of the half-empty stadium.
Yeah.
What is that like when you're there? Last time I was at this game, Texas was the empty side. So
look, there's been, I will say this about Texas fans. There have been a couple games here lately that Texas has won or excuse me, lost close games. And I've been really impressed with the Texas fans recently, because you're right, Rocky. There have been times where we go to the game and the Texas side clears out a little bit. But even in some of these close losses or where the team played really well and just didn't come out on top, the Texas fans have been sticking there. They've been staying there. So it has been a full stadium. I was actually kind of documenting it. I was taking pictures as they started to clear out. And I will tell you, OU fans started clearing out that upper deck near the one of the Sooner end. They have the video board up there. That end started clearing out by the third quarter.
Yeah,
I mean, halfway through the third, they were starting to, it was noticeably emptying out. By the fourth quarter, it was there was a significant amount. And that's really when, you really see the Texas fans that are sitting over there pop even more as it starts to clear out.
All was left in the stands.
Yeah, it was definitely.
Did y'all do the keys? That's one of my favorite things I've ever done.
The fourth quarter keys.
They're
yeah.
getting up, and if you're close to them,
yeah,
you were walking down the.
Carry keys anymore? I don't carry keys.
You don't carry keys?
No, everything's on my phone. My car, my door, everything's on my phone.
3031. What is everything in
I don't carry keys unless I'm driving the Jeep. Then I have to carry one key.
Yeah,
I like keys. I want keys.
Not in my bag. Not when you have to carry these little bags to the game with, clear bags that are the size of a Post-it note, and you can only fit so many things in. My Bronco key and my F-250 key are giant keys anyway, so I don't keep anything on them because they're the big key fobs. So I don't carry them anymore. But we certainly started. Like I started the na 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 na. You remember that, Katie?
Yeah,
that's old school. That's old school. That was good to do. We did start a Poor Sooners chant, which was a lot of fun. We haven't done that in a while, so that was a good time. But
I heard about that going.
Yeah,
I am bummed that technology has taken out another tradition I love. That I didn't realize there's this many people. I would have been the only one with keys. Hey.
I mean,
keys. Get your keys out. Hey, man, we haven't had keys since 87, okay?
Start your phone with your car. Start your car with your phone.
Yeah.
All right. So, Megan, you were talking about that Poor Sooners. What were you saying? Poor Sooners? Whatever.
Yeah, Poor Sooners. Yeah. That's a classic.
I remember that that was always great, especially in baseball. I remember a first baseman dropping a fly ball in foul territory, and we're already whipping their ass in the series, and it just like was this poor Aggie chant that just kept on going.
Yeah.
And then the guy like walked 4 guys, and poor Aggie thing just got louder and louder and louder. But yeah, we did with poor Sooners too.
Yep.
That's funny.
Not enough.
Yeah.
All right. So we know this is a heated rivalry. There's been leading up to this game. Now that this Texas OU game is in the SEC, it's an SEC match. There was some controversy, and we'd love to get your opinion on this, Kevin, because you're friends with Miss Penny Bond, Isaiah Bond's mom. She had this to share, and we'll talk about why this matters so much that it came from Miss Penny Bond. Red River Rivalry, greater than the Iron Bowl. Sorry, not sorry. I throw in not sorry. My first Red River Rivalry overall was an amazing experience, other than my son's minor injury. The fair was huge. The rivalry was real, and let's just say I'm glad it was not a shootout. So, Katie, tell about Penny Bond, like where her son comes from, why this matters so much that she has an opinion on the Red River shootout being greater than the Iron Bowl.
Well, it means a lot. I met Penny, I guess, when Isaiah would have been a freshman. And so we were recruiting athletes where I was at and for a financial firm. And he's from Buford, Georgia. And so my job was to just identify top prospects. And anyone can do that. You can go but you can't go after all of them. And you don't want to go after all the top 100. You want to find out about, personalities, and just found out we had signed an Alabama guy, and they were like, you've got to meet, Penny Bond and Isaiah, just great family. Awesome. So we became friends with that, ended up signing him, and he was at Alabama for 2 years and was really good. I mean, those when, he was there with Bryce in the first year, his freshman year, he had some injuries, but also was like learning the game, in the SEC. And the second year, Milroe was kind of figuring it out, and him and Kobe Prentice, the freshman receivers, had started to really feel it. So UT knew how good he could be. They loved their time at Alabama, and I'm sure if Saban was there, he'd probably still be there. But I mean, for any receiver to look at what Sark does, and remember, he got 2 in-person. He got a trip to Austin, and I told y'all that would help because all the Alabama parents were treated incredibly well and said, this place is first class. We love this. If we weren't at Alabama, we'd be at UT. Well, lo and behold, we've gotten some Alabama guys. So they saw what Sark did. And when you see that, you're thinking, man, what if I'm in that offense? And so it was an easy move for him. And they're just, both of them are fantastic. They're a great family. I'm so proud of them and proud that he's getting a lot of first round buzz too. But Penny is the best. Penny and I, like with y'all, we've had 3-hour conversations just talking about life. And it's like, oh my God, we've been up for 3 hours, because it feels like 10 minutes. And so she's fantastic, but she means that when she says that. And I've been around a lot of them. And once again, I mean, I totally understand if you're a Michigan person and you hear that, you're like, well, you can't be objective. Well, I can be. OU's a better football program all time than Texas. There you go. That's stuff to say in some objectivity. This is the best rivalry in college football. Chris Fowler said it's number 1. And I think Texas, Michigan's great. USC, Notre Dame is 2 top 5 programs, which is also weird. California and the Midwest, which is great. There's some great ones. This is the best. There's nothing like it, period.
That's the thing. That's the thing to me is that you can talk about the game all you want. You can talk about the hate between 2 teams all you want, or the history. But this has all of that plus the atmosphere. You're there. It's split on the 50. You're at the state fair. There's hundreds of thousands of people at the fair, including the 92,000 in the Cotton Bowl. You can't beat that, man. I think it's a cool, unique experience. It's not just 2 teams that hate each other playing home and away, or splitting the game down the middle in some random NFL stadium. Right. Splitting it down the side of the field. That doesn't make any sense. Come on. What are you doing, Georgia? What are you doing, Florida?
I want to hear Rocky State because I think she's got an interesting one on this. But yeah, the Florida, Georgia, I've had Georgia people tell me, this is different and better. I absolutely love it. At the very end, I love Rocky getting back to your point about seeing these players enjoy it. Like that to me, as a Texas fan, is is the best Texas environment. But Rocky, you're not a big fan. You love the game and the rivalry, but you're not a big fan of going. And I know a couple
I
of people
despise everything about this environment. I know. And I've talked to a lot of people recently who also despise it and won't go. So I'm not alone, but yeah, there's a lot of us who won't go to that game.
Now,
I'm learning.
Is that like the fights and the drunks and the stuff like that?
I've talked about it. There's just so many reasons. And then I found out this week they didn't even have water and stuff. So
they were fine this year. They didn't run out of any of that stuff this year.
Oh,
COVID year they ran out.
Media booth, they didn't have running water. Like I heard a lot more things has happened this week again. But
well,
anyway.
If it makes you feel better, as someone who's in the media for a long time, I don't think I've ever seen a guy media member wash his hands in the last few years. So I'm not sure.
Straight calling him out.
Yeah. Or flush the urinal. You know, it's like
terrible.
That's amazing when you walk up to, and y'all don't have this, but you walk up to a urinal and it's just caked, and I'm like, bro, all you had to do, and I get it. You don't want to touch it.
Elbow, right?
It's a quick little push. Like, help out your brother so he doesn't vomit when he walks up. You know,
so gross. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right. So one of the big stories also, like we talked about, this heated rivalry, the story behind this rivalry. So let's get into a little bit of this planting the flag thing. Megan, what are your thoughts about planting the flag going into someone's, let's say if you go to someone's home stadium, like if we were in Norman this weekend, planting the flag, do you think that's any different than, Anthony Hill Jr. and Barron Sorrell planting the flag in the middle of this Cotton Bowl?
Yes, there's another level of disrespect to go into somebody's home and planting a flag in the middle of their field. Yeah, I think that's just a complete different level of FU. I mean, hell, you saw it with the Cowboys, right? With Terrell Owens trying to protect the star. Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. There's a lot of programs that logo is sacred. That's their identity. That's who they are. And so, yeah, I think planting the flag at somebody else's field is insanely disrespectful. It's a little different here. Again, neutral field where we're both 50-50. Halfway between. It's a little different. It's
through the Baker Mayfield jersey.
That added another level. That I like now. And he did say, Anthill did say that it was a fan that gave him the jersey. Somebody gave him that. It wasn't like they had it pre-planned. It was handed to him. They're like, oh, hell yeah. And the thing that I love that Sooners are getting all pissy-poly about, like, yes, that's what they had. They had a Baker Mayfield jersey. But have you guys not seen Texas take the opposing team's jersey or T-shirt or whatever and blow the cannon through it? They every game they blow holes into a shirt from the opposing team. So but again, it's that extra level of hatred and that extra level of pettiness that
this
comes
rivalry is something else.
Comes with a rivalry like that. So yeah, I thought that was disrespectful. I didn't see it as disrespectful to Baker Mayfield. I saw it as like, oh, that's another level of disrespect to OU. Right, just because it was the OU jersey.
I heard Baker Mayfield say, "I'm living rent free. I'm from Austin."
He did,
but Baker Mayfield has been on game day whenever he was already a pro and came
talking shit about Ellinger,
talking shit about Sam Ellinger,
and in one of the Spirit deals, like as a Texas Cowboy or Spur. I mean, he was red ass about it, which I like. I'm like, you should be, dude. I totally get it. I don't think it's disrespectful. It's definitely disrespectful. I'm with Megan to do it on someone else's field, unless that field is turf. Getting back to our boy, I believe, and it just shows that you're a dumbass. Then go for it. This thing's not sticking.
Yeah, what's happening?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll show you. I'll show you the plant flagging in case people haven't seen it. It was a big deal, but in case. And it doesn't stick; it falls over. But that's it. And I guess he said somebody gave him the jersey, and like you said, Mayfield. They asked him about it, and he says, "Well, I'm living rent free 10 years later." Dude, you were talking about high school kids while you were in the NFL. Give it a break. He's the one who can't keep Texas out of his mouth. He's the one who goes on game day as the guest and starts off with his horns down when nobody's talking about Texas. He's the one who is obsessed with Texas. So even if they didn't plan for them, he didn't show up with worried about Mayfield and having his jersey. I love that it ended up his jersey because now all he's getting is a bunch of people back like, dude, you stay worried about Texas.
Right.
Yeah. I totally agree. I've seen OU plant their flag, maybe not with a Texas jersey. I mean, who fucking cares? You grow up, and especially if you're going to be Baker can be lippy all he wants, but you know what that means. Mama always told you better be able to take it.
Exactly. If you want to be the one grabbing your junk and planting flags, you better be able to handle it when it comes back at you.
But one of the beautiful things about this game too is that it is a neutral stadium. It's everyone's stadium until it hits 0-0-0.
That is
more points. It's your stadium for the rest of the day, brother. You want to plant stuff, you want to walk around, put hats on, take pictures, It's your stadium. You earned it.
That's funny.
Well, and that's the fun thing about this trophy too, right? Like that it travels back and forth between the schools. Whoever won it gets bragging rights for the year. We saw LaFau saying he remembered last year's loss. The team remembered last year's loss. It was something that stuck with him, and they said, all right, it's time to get revenge. This was our revenge game. We got our revenge. Cool. We're happy about it. Let's move on. I love that because the team doesn't, they're not going to linger on things, but they don't forget. Those dumbass t-shirts that were made last year, Texas didn't forget about that. Texas saw that and find it pretty amazing that the ones that were bragging about the shirts the most ended up on their asses the most too. So
yeah. So let's talk about that. Just the intensity of, like you said, when the game's over, one team owns the stadium, the other team has to suck it up and with their heads down out the door, or sometimes they're just sore losers, right? We see a lot of sore losers in this game. Megan, I love that you shared this comment, this video of Bowen, who talked a lot coming into this game. Stutzman and Bowen talked a lot, and there's more lowlights from their grades of this game than highlights. Maybe they're a little too amped after the first quarter. But here's what Bowen had to say after the game about Texas in this win.
Just opportunities. We just gave it to them. As a defense, we're better than that. Like Coach said, we take full accountability, especially me and Danny. But in the story, we gave it to them. There was none. In my mind, they didn't earn what they got shortly after that interception.
How are you going to say that you take accountability and then say Texas didn't earn what they got? That's not taking accountability. No. That's not owning it. I just thought it was a silly thing. It came across as just a red ass comment where, all right, we got beat and you're sulking a little bit. Man, what are you doing? Just own it and move on.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Rocky, you go ahead.
I was just going to say Sark was asked about it, and this was his response.
Not my problem. We won. Next game.
Not my problem. We won.
Right.
Next game.
Look, we actually remember this, and they were good kids, but like during that 15-year, when some of those down years, do you remember some of the comments you would hear after with the players? And I felt awful because you could just hear frustration, but they're like, man, we're so much better than that. I mean, we should have beaten Iowa State by 28 instead of lost and given up 500 yards of total offense. No, but
you didn't.
And it's been happening a bunch. Like there's got to be some man in the mirror, and that goes for everyone. But where are we at with our program right now? And I know everything's different year to year with NIL and the transfer portal, so the overview may not be the overview that it used to be. Like in the late 80s, I'm like, oh, Florida State's going to go like on a 7-10 year run here. I can bank on it. I'd buy it if it was a stall. Right. So things change, but like hearing comments like that, that's not good. They played like shit and whipped your ass on every level. I been 70-3, y'all.
Right. And to me, that's what jumps out the most. We said this at the early, the beginning portion of this broadcast, that Texas played arguably their worst game this season and still whooped them by 31. It is scary to me to think what this Texas football program can look like when they play mistake-free, perfect football. That's got to scare people. That's got to concern people that even so, and yeah, look, I know the arguments can be, oh, who's Texas played? Well, first of all, Texas, like you said, Katie, our schedule is progressively getting tougher and tougher, and some of those wins that we had look good. Look, Mississippi State put up a good fight against Georgia.
They put up 31 points, didn't they?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So, I love the narrative of, oh, Texas has an easy schedule. Oh, but there's no easy games in the SEC. You got to pick one or the other. And I think Texas is proving that, look, we're going to play who we've got. We can't change the schedule mid-season, right? So we're going to play who we've got. We're going to make, I know it's your likeness. It's Kevin.
It's my namesake.
Yep. She's back there chilling. She likes to make a little appearance.
You think so much of me that she named a female cat after me. So I don't know what the hell that says, but you know what? I take it as a compliment.
You should. It's after Up. Remember the Disney movie Up, where he thinks the bird. Yeah, I love it. Come on now. Come on. She's the best. But yeah, I just think if you take a step back as a fan, if you take a step back as a fan of college football at all, and watch Texas's performance over these 6 games. There have been improvements in each game. There have been some questions in each game. There have been some silly plays and some boneheaded mistakes and things like that in each game. Texas has not played a perfect game. Texas hasn't played up to their level where we know that they're capable of playing, because it's been different things that Texas has had. It's not necessarily been one consistent thing that UT is not doing well in every game. It's like one game will have too many false starts. One game will have, the defense was allowing too many runs. Right. Yeah. But we tweak that every time. So I don't think it's the problems that Texas has had, the few problems that they have had so far. I don't think that's, it's not indicative of an overall problem with the program. That's a game to game thing. The only thing I might argue with that is special teams, and we can talk about that in just a minute. But if Texas puts together a perfect game, puts together consistently a mistake-free football in every level, and plays up to where we know that they can play, Texas is going to be a scary damn team for anyone to take on. Yeah. I just, that's hard to argue.
They already are. And I've talked to people nationally who are very objective, certainly throughout some of these years have called me and they're going, what the hell's going on down there, dude? Like, there's too much. I'm like, I don't know. Augie told me there was something in the water. I think he may be right. I don't know what the hell is going on down here. And they've called and just said, this team just looks different. And so some of that's eyeball too, to where I think it's wide open in college football. Could Texas get beat? Will they probably get beat with that tough of a remaining schedule? Yes. But if you're going to rank, you look at the top, we didn't really know about Ohio State. We got answers there. Oregon's really good, and hell, I'd be fine if they're ranked number 1. But if you really watch every game of Oregon, are you totally sold on Oregon right now?
No.
They're obviously beatable.
Right.
And Texas is beatable, and everyone else in the SEC's been beat. So there you go.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So a couple more things, and then we'll get to what we loved about the offense or what we didn't love about the offense. We'll break down a little bit of offense, defense, special teams. The corn dog. I know corn dog, Megan, the Fletcher's corny dog is like one of the highlights, must-dos of the state fair. Before this game, they had asked apparently Venables about the corn dog, and he's like, well, after the game, if we win, I'll eat a corn dog or whatever. And
so never had it. He didn't know what a Fletcher's corn dog was. If that tells me that you are not prepared to be head coach, that's it, man. You don't know what a Fletcher's corny dog is? You've been playing in and around this game for how long? And you have no idea what a Fletcher's corny dog? Come on, man.
Can he really not have known? That's like one of the iconic things of the entire state fair.
That's what I'm saying. If you're that clueless about this game and the stuff that surrounds it, man, you got no hope for your team. I'm putting it on the Fletcher's corny dog.
He does look like, and by the way, this is crazy. They've now had 2 head coaches, and that is the less ridiculous statement about food or thing with food that I've seen. We had the brisket that he had. I can't believe he posted that.
Brisket.
Lincoln Riley.
I don't even call that brisket.
Post that. We've all messed up food, and it's like, oh no, I'm not taking a picture of this.
Yeah, he was proud of it. He was look at this shoe leather that I have prepared for my family.
But yeah, it's crazy. He does look like the type of guy Venables does, though, that is probably just drinking kale protein shakes and eating protein bars. That's like his whole meal,
Right.
Just raw eggs, and he goes out there and coaches.
Right, and then washes it down with the fire hose to the mouth. Right.
Yeah, exactly. I did always like the turkey legs. And
turkey legs are elite. Real ones know turkey legs are elite. That's got to get a turkey leg.
It's caveman style.
That's where to go. I heard Fowler and Herb Street talking about it, and Fowler said apparently Fowler is just very fastidious and like doesn't like eat a lot of stuff that may be rich and tastes good, which good for him. I would probably live to be 95, but he said, yeah.
Will he really be living? Will he?
He could have stomach issues. You never know why some people. He might want to.
You're
eat
right.
it.
You're right. I've heard though, and I know that like when he came in to see us at LHN, like he had to have like his workout routine set up throughout the day, which so good for him. But he was like, yeah, it's kind of was on the pinker side. And then Herbie, who I love, I lost some respect. Herbie goes, oh, no way. He goes, I have to have all my meats just charred.
Killing me, Smalls.
No.
Killing me, Smalls.
You're a well done guy.
Yeah, that automatically drops you down like several levels of respect there, man. You can't. Well done. No, that just kills me.
All right. Well, let me show you Sark coming into the press conference eating the corn dog.
This is great.
Listen,
I tried to sneak it. He's like, we're not ready yet.
Oh, he
no.
eating it happy, and then he was still trying to eat it because he was hungry.
This was the thing. I love that sassy Sark is like showing up. You know what I mean? Like he knew about that comment, and you've seen it through the team. You've seen these little comments like the belt to ass, the little things that they're paying attention. And it's these little things where he's kind of jabbing them a little bit, like, oh, you don't know what a Fletcher's corny dog is, and you said you'd eat one when you won the game. Oh, what's up? Here's my Fletcher's corny dog.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
Funny.
I think pettiness, people got to be careful with it in real life and just grow. As you grow up, you're like, now I'm not going to mess with it. But that's what I love about rivalries. This is the one time in life. It's Sims land. Let them be petty. It's funny. No one's getting hurt.
Exactly. I agree wholeheartedly.
All right, so let's move on let's get talking about the offense. We're having the best time, but we got to get moving and talking about the actual game. All right. So what was okay? Do y'all want to just go straight to like what was the play of the game, the moment that just set it all off?
Sure. Bring it in.
Okay. Oh, I was ready. All right.
See, you ask these questions. You gotta be quicker than that. You got to be quicker than that, Rocky.
You got to be quicker than Danny Stutzman.
Huh?
You got to be quicker than Danny Stutzman if it's that play.
Here we go. All right. So, Jay, do you say his name JD Pickell? Is it Pickell or Pickle?
I think it's Pickle.
Okay. All right. He
I think, but I don't know about that. I never had.
He said this will be the game that they play over and over and over.
Yep, this is it. Now watch Stutzman here, man. Stutzman
got out hustled.
Uh-huh.
And look, this to me was really indicative of what this Texas football program is all about. We saw it, there were a lot of comparisons that were being brought up between this play and the hustle that was shown here by Silas and what Jay Witt did at TCU.
Yep.
Right. And that was, he came, I think I saw a stat that he ran something like 54 yards to be in that position. And he never gave up on it. Right. He had no business being down at that end of the field. He could have watched the play. He could have watched it go, but it was that hustle. It was going after the ball, making sure that everything was good and that they were in position. And sure enough, it just worked out that he was there because of that hustle. I love that. That's something that you wouldn't have seen from a Texas team 5 years ago, 6 years ago, right? So little things like that to me just really show where this program is at, how the changes that have come in. And I lost again, that was right in front of my end zone, like right where I was sitting and just watching. It's like time slowed down. and we're rooting for Wisner. Yes, Wisner, no, as the ball goes, and then here comes Bolden out of nowhere to cover it up. So it was an exciting play for sure, and that could have changed the trajectory of that game, right? If had it gone out back of the end zone, had he not been there, had it been recovered, that could have been a major problem.
It definitely could have, and I definitely think it's the most important game, and you're exactly right. I mean, Silas had already sealed his edge. I mean, there is a reason to run down, but totally get that if most people don't. But he's got the speed to get back down there in case something does happen like that, which is rare. But I would say, I mean, you're right. It could have changed it. I almost feel like OU was so inept, though, that there's like there's not many like scenarios I can think of that would have changed the score.
Yeah,
you know, and the feeling of it maybe, which maybe is better for OU. But yeah, it was a huge play. I think it's just like you said, it's more indicative and more of a sign of where this program is. They're all in. They seem to all be in, even if they're not getting the ball maybe as much as they want. And by the way, Silas has some balls, speaking of ball, on punt returns. Almost scaring me. But
scary.
Not look, we've talked about this. Let's bring it up. I mentioned special teams earlier. Let's talk about it. It drives me a little bit bonkers because it feels like we are underestimating punts a lot. The number of times that he's got to go back over his shoulder or backpedal like crazy to get there and be ready. Whoo! It sets my teeth on edge. It drives me bonkers. But this time, Rocky, you've got some thoughts. Tell me about it.
I wanted to play the video of Sark talking about Bolden still, about the culture play. But go ahead. We can go on to the.
No, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Bolden.
Oh, no, I was just going to say Sark was talking about how he brought in all the transfer players and how they knew most of them before, either through the other coaching staff or players that they'd recruited in other places, but they only knew Bolden through another coach, friend of a coach. And so when you talk about, Megan, this culture play and how this wouldn't have happened a few years ago, maybe the hustle, the drive, and especially a player like Bolden that maybe coming from Oregon State being, the hot player that he would have expected to be a bigger part of the offense. And here he is as having a role, but it doesn't keep him from like contributing at the highest level when he's out on the field. So this is what Sark had to say about Bolden and comparing it, like you said, to Jay Witt and that effort and that culture play.
Ironically, when Quinn had come back against TCU with an interception, when you saw Jordan Whittington and Xavier Worthy both get up off the ground, chase a guy down, Jordan knocks the ball loose and Xavier recovers the fumble and really changed the momentum of that game when that game could have went a different direction. And I felt like the play Silas made Saturday on Trey's touchdown run was another culture play. If you want to try to exemplify what this team is about, here's a guy that blocks a corner. He's in the backfield and Trey's about 20 yards ahead of him. And nowhere in there did he think to put his hands in the air and just let the guy score. I mean, he turned and was sprinting to get to the football. And ironically enough, that ball came out and he was Johnny on the spot. And that was a 7-3 game at that time. And how that could have really changed the complexion of that game if we don't score that touchdown to make it 14-3. So I'm always looking for plays to point out, amazing effort, and we take pride in the effort that we play with. But then I try to find those plays that I refer to them as culture plays, and that to me that was our culture that Silas has fit in beautifully to. That in my opinion really kind of kickstarted us there in that second quarter.
Kickstarted it. It was like he says, they great effort first, right? He always talks about they great effort first. How do you not give that effort 100,000,000%?
Right. Well, and I think that's something too. The game was close early on, right? Again, Texas had that slow start, had a few little missteps there.
They had 13 yards in the first quarter. Now, first quarters go by, in 2 minutes now, but still, like they didn't look good.
Right. It just felt it's strange looking back on this game because seeing how it ended up, seeing how the momentum shifted and it was with Texas constantly towards the end and it just kept building and getting better and better. It's hard now looking back on that game and going, well, shit, it wasn't an out of control game at that point. Things were still close. It was still, what's going on. Again, I felt like there was this confidence because in games past, I've gone, oh God, this could go either way. Is that going to be the kiss of death? Is that what starts the drama? Is that what starts the problem? This year, I didn't have that. Okay, yeah, it's close, but it never felt like a concern, if that makes sense.
No, and I think even getting back to, was it Bowen or Bowman? I mean, I can understand in their head, they did what they needed to defensively until about 2.5 minutes ago in the second quarter. And that's when this thing, and obviously the turnovers didn't help out with that.
Right.
But they did what they needed to. And then Texas made some adjustments. I think they were running a lot of 3 deep stuff. They were just keeping stuff in front of them.
Yep.
The other thing too, though, it's weird with a Venables coach team, and I really respected their front 7 coming in. I didn't think Texas would gash them the way they did.
Yeah.
On the ground. And
but it wasn't Blue that could get it going. It was Wisner that started popping them.
But Blue was fine. And I want to say this, like the whole RB1, RB2 stuff, who cares? Like
right.
Both guys get a lot of touches, and you feel it out with their strengths and who's hot. And that was a perfect time to have Trey Wisner. I mean, when Blue was the first string, I call him first string running back, quote unquote, on the depth chart, you still didn't know if Wisner may get more carries or Jarrett Gibson, who's a different back, maybe a guy who gets a couple, series because it makes more sense on 3rd and 2. Like I just want all 3 are talented, and Wisner showed that. He was my biggest surprise in game 1 against Colorado State because I just hadn't seen him. And I'm like, oh my God, he reminded me of Blue last year. I'm like, whoa, this guy can go. Jaden's fine, Quintravion's fine, but let's not try and pick battles where there shouldn't be. I hope that was that on the list?
Yeah, look, it's a question. Would you have him in? But Katie, you bring that's a great point. Something about this Texas team, Texas isn't about having 1 or 2 players that are really good at any position. Texas is, again, we've used this term, an embarrassment of riches at almost every, and we know that running back room's been a little banged up. So to be able to see guys, even with a banged up running room, even with some folks out that we thought were going to be our starters, everybody's stepping up and playing their role. Everybody, playing selfless football. That to me, again, just shows where this program is at. We know that we've got playmakers at every position. We know that we've got guys that can go, and on any other team, they'd be the number 1. They'd be the go-to guy. They'd be the man, right? And I love this mentality that Texas has of, that's all right. I might not get all the catches or all the handoffs and be the guy this game, but next game it's next man up. Next time, you work with what's working in the game, and that's what makes Texas so dangerous. There's so many weapons, and the guys are willing to play selfless football. I love it.
I think Trey Wisner is also getting more comfortable. If you even go back to the Michigan game, like remember when Quinn had to take the knee and he got shoved down and they got the offensive line fight. That was on Trey. It was a brain fart because Quinn wouldn't have turned around if it wouldn't have hand off.
Right.
And Wisner didn't think so. It's all right. He's young. It's early on. Blue fumbles a couple of times. You can tell now, man, that's pretty high and tight, isn't it? And now Quintravion, that's from behind, but make sure when you get there, I mean, there are going to be little learning lessons. Quintravion feels like he's more comfortable pre-snap and not being told. I can tell he's being told a lot of stuff. Like, he's getting more comfortable. Like both these guys, they're going to need both. And they're going to need Gibson too. But they're definitely going to need Wisner and Blue. And it may be you pick a day and we'll call them RB1. I would like to say RB A and B or A and AA,
A and 2A.
Yeah, 2A, right.
I think the amazing thing you mentioned, the embarrassment of riches, they're so deep at wide receiver, so many different pass catchers in every game, so many ball carriers. And of course, the one who grades the highest and was the biggest impact in this game was Gunnar Helm this week. It was another big game. We talked about it going into this game. I saw kind of the OU defense similar to a Michigan defense. So I was saying, I think this is a Gunnar Helm game because it felt that similar. The front 7, there might be space right over the middle, but they ended up using Gunnar Helm a lot, but to the outsides and for a little more trickier stuff and in space. And he got his opportunity to hurdle again. We know there's an over under on 1 hurdle now for every game for Gunnar Helm. But he ended up not just being, the most impactful receiver in this game, but the highest graded receiver in the SEC. 91 rating in the SEC. So congrats, Gunnar Helm. I hope he's flying up draft boards at tight end spot. I mean, that's just, but you can also see when they went to him, it was a little bit of comfort to get Quinn's game going too. Like the running game and that, getting it to Helm, help move the ball and get like light something and get something going. So that was great.
Great call on the throwback where the Texas offense needed that. You did need a field goal there, and the throwback to get that first touchdown. Kelvin kicks out enough, shows his athleticism, and Helm's got a defensive tackle and leverage on him to get in the end zone. That was going to be a touchdown. I'm with you. I think that's a great call. Gunnar Helm, I talked with a scout in July. He was like, he's obviously been looking at these guys for a little while, but he's like, who's the guy? I'm like, dude, Gunnar Helm is an NFL tight end. And in the right offense, you imagine like what McVay or Shanahan would do with a guy like that, because he can still block, and he's gotten better at that. But he's shown the athleticism to high point that ball. I love the double reverse pass. I mean, this rivalry is great. It's like we're going after you, and we're doing it twice. But he high pointed that ball. He's really shown everything. He's a natural pass catcher. I don't know what his 40 time is going to be, but for tight ends like that, you see it in the NFL. I mean, as long as it's good enough and he seems fast enough, that's not the end all be all. It's about understanding space, and there's a feel that you have in being a natural catcher. And also, I need you to kind of be a fullback. Sorry, a lot of roles there.
He's got to be smart. Yeah. Yeah. And I think Gunnar Helm shows that a lot too. I love it, Katie. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, he's really coming into his own. Rocky's been talking about him. She's been high on Gunnar Helm for a while. And she was talking about him being the guy and showing up. And it's been great to watch his development and his coming out party, if you will, this year.
It also shows the depth and how it helps. Remember, JT was out at times last year, and Gunnar Helm got a lot of reps, and I think a touchdown catch in this OU game. Arch Manning's going to have that next year. And with some of the blowouts, letting some of these guys get into this game, I think is huge. Where it's like, no, you know what? I wasn't a starter, but I started 4 games. I know what it's like out there.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So Wisner was the star of the offense. Quinn needed time and got it going. Gunnar Helm was the receiver of the game. Let's move to defense. It seems like everyone nationally and across Texas is saying Anthony Hill Jr. had the breakout game. We know he got called out. Number 0 is the weak link on the front by Eichert, right? And then Eichert had to go say, yep, Texas is bigger, faster, stronger. Hill had, was a great player. 11 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 4 QB pressures, 2 sacks, 6 defensive stops, and a forced fumble. That was all just Anthony Hill Jr.
Crazy numbers. That's team stats right there.
Yeah.
Right? Those are team stat numbers. And this is one guy. Listen, if that's our weak link, give me a chain of weak links. If that's it, that's the standard for weak link. I'm in. Give me a chain of weak link.
Like, look, Gabe knows the ball. Like, what have you been watching? The guy's been all over the field. I can maybe see last year saying, you know what, kid's super talented. We worry about him on the edge. If we could isolate him early on in his freshman career and get some candy and trickeration going this way, we may be able to get some false steps. Guy's proven he can play all over the field, and he's gotten smarter and smarter. I mean, when he chased down Hawkins and you heard Herbstreit go, woohoo! Like, Herbstreit sees a lot of ball. He sees a lot of speed. That was guys 6'3", 235. Usually don't cut down, and Hawkins had no way to get the corner. And Hawkins gets the corner on most linebackers that are coming from that depth.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't get what Eichert was doing. Like, what are you watching?
Yeah, I don't know, man. In that play specifically in the game, I think I yelled, it's like a lion eating a gazelle. Like, just the way he came at him and drug him down, there was something just primal about it. It felt like he had a purpose. He was there with a reason. Like, I think that stuck in his head a little bit. Oh, I'm the weak link. All right, let me show you what weak link is.
Yeah.
He was a man on a mission.
He was on, I think he even used the word, I was on a mission to prove, to make the older guys proud, but to prove he belonged. So the entire defense is playing lights out, right? We know now they are the nation's top scoring defense. Right here, we can see there and Hook'em Headlines, the top total defense, the best defensive yards per play statistics. Like, they are killing it as a team. And then, of course, some individuals. Vernon Broughton still rated the top defensive tackle in the SEC, one of the best in the country. Who else are you loving? I know there's so many great standouts. Jahdae Barron, right, rising up the boards. Katie, who are you loving on the defense?
I mean, Vernon Broughton's been great. I could go through a list. I love the depth. So I love when Lowell comes in or when Bill Norton comes in. And a lot of times that's just but they don't lose a lot there. And they've been really staunch. I think after maybe you could say a slow start, but Trey Moore is starting to gain his footing a little bit. Ethan Burke continue to make some plays. I love the depth, but I would say the linebackers to me, when you don't play a lot, but they're so important because they're going to be part of the run and they're still part of the pass coverage. So they're almost like that tight end where I'm asking you to play a lot of roles that other positions don't, man. And you got to be kind of a stud here physically and pretty athletic here. And they've shown that. I love the mix and match. So the secondary, I got to give them a lot of love through 6 games. I mean, I've been very hard on them the last couple of years, and I think rightfully so. And they've showed up. So I would say the depth individually, Barron's definitely a guy. And then Vernon Broughton to me has one of those guys had to be really damn good. And Vernon Broughton's making himself some money right now.
Agreed. It's been fun to watch him. And I do again, I want to give a shout out to Benda. Benda's really been kind of the heart and soul of this defense. Right. And he took last year's loss personally. He owned it. He said, that's on me. That was my mistake, my miscommunication, when OU came back in the end and won it in the end. I think he's been wearing that loss for a minute, and he showed up this game. Again, I think consistently he's been one of the guys that you see him come up and but every play he's there, every play. I mean, he's a vocal leader on the team. He's a big defensive guy. He might not be one that a lot of folks are talking about consistently and openly, but they should be. Because Benda he's a smart player. He's leading the team. And again, watching him develop in this game, watching him step up in this game, he wasn't going to let Texas lose again. That wasn't going to happen.
Hey, this is not a euphemism. Can I let my meat rest, take it out of the fridge and get it to
You do whatever you need to with your meat, buddy. Do whatever you need to with your meat.
All right. So we have to mention Derek Williams' injury, right? That was huge. A safety, Derek Williams. He was part of the safety rotation with Makuba and Taft. He is out for the season. Sark said that he's having a surgery. We saw that he has some kind of knee injury. We don't want to speculate until they say something official, but he's out for the season. We know that. So I wanted to get your thoughts, Megan. Because this injury happened on special teams. We know Sark always talks about the best players are going to be on special teams. It's a huge impact of the game, field position and possible turnovers and setting the pace and the tone. Like he really values and puts players on special teams. I've heard some people having controversy like, well, don't put some of your best players on special teams because they could get hurt. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, I appreciate the sentiment behind it, but you can't play the game scared. Right. And in my mind, you always put your best players out there. If you're not putting your best players out there, you're not giving your team the best chance to win. So I get it. I understand. And of course, last year we were nervous. We had some players that were playing banged up on special teams. Who was it that had the club on their hand? Yeah. I mean, it's so I understand the sentiment behind it, but at the end of the day, you can't play football scared. You're going to have some injuries. Things are going to happen. And again, especially with a team like Texas, where you've got depth at so many positions, I just think that's playing safe and playing reactionary football doesn't make any sense to me. Not when you're trying to go and win it all.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, we've talked about this before with Quintravian Wisner, with his mom, Angie Wisner, saying being part of special teams was huge for his development, to get to the speed of the game, the physicality of the game, to be a contributor and earn playing time, in the right now. Look at, Wisner. So it's such a tone setting, field space setting, position setting. It's such an impact on the entire game. I don't think it's a time where you hang back. It's an opportunity for younger players or developing players to see what they got. But there's times where you got to put your best out there. And so it's unfortunate that Derek Williams' injury happened at that time, but it's a physical game. It can happen at any time. So we're all hoping that, he gets a full recovery and surgery goes well. And Katie, we're having the conversation about Derek Williams' injury and playing during special teams.
I heard it. Although I was working, so I just saw on Twitter, probably at lunch, that they didn't name an injury. Have we found out? Do we kind of
it's knee. We know knee, and we know it's in the next couple weeks he'll have a surgery, but I don't want to speculate. People are speculating.
Well, I heard you talk about Miss Wisner and how it helped, Quintravian out a lot. And I do think there's a lot to that, and that is part of the depth. I mean, heck, I remember when Mac really got it going. Like, one of the coolest things, and it really helped out the team, was having Corey Redding from Galena Park North Shore at 6'5", running a 4.5. People, and it's also scary too. Like, I know this is weird, but football is a game of intimidation, and when you've got dudes like that on special teams, there is a thought on that other sideline, like, bro, they're too loaded, man. Like, this kid's, can you imagine guarding Ryan Wingo on that? It's like, wait a minute, you were playing in St. Louis high school football last year? Like, you're a freshman on campus? Like, okay. So, but I think it's good for them. I think it's needed too. I mean, special teams have been taken out of the game more at the pro level, but they're still important, and certainly important in college. And so I would play them. I mean, it's a rough sport. What are you going to do? Sit everyone, and I mean, you got to play him. And now, obviously, if they didn't feel like he was 100% and he re-injured that, because I know he was out a little bit.
I think before it was hamstring.
Okay.
And this time it's knee.
Sometimes I can play into it, but it's in Dr. Dunn here. So I trust our doctors to make the right call and do what's right for the kid. I will say this. He's super talented. As good as Gilbo's been great, Taft's been great, as good as that secondary's been, having Derek Williams back there, as he showed with the physicality on the beautiful hit to knock out that ball before the half. And he's gotten better in coverage, whether it was a bad ball, but good awareness and good ball awareness to catch the interception of Michigan. Like, we were starting to see that 5-star, and we've seen it. And so you never know where Derek Williams is or where you're at injury-wise if you're in the, knock on wood, the Final Four, and man, you need Derek Williams, or maybe he's just your best option by that point because he's 2 years in.
Yeah. All right. Defense was fantastic. Still the number one defense, like we said, in the country. Any other thoughts, or do you have a quick thought about special teams before we move on?
I mean, maybe a little worried Auburn misses too. I know that, and I want to get Megan's take on this, because that is one. I'm with Rocky. I've been there a lot. I'd probably enjoy watching it at home maybe a little bit more. But I went a couple years ago and had a ball, the 49-0 game. But the wind can be different. Was the wind heading that direction tough on the kickers? Was it swirling?
Yeah, it was windy inside of the stadium, which it helped us in the fans, or as the fan, it helped us not die of heat exhaustion, but there was breeze moving through there. So definitely something to keep an eye on. We know that he's been really consistent with those PATs, but there's certainly a little bit of concern. You go, all right, are we going to be okay? Can we trust our guy to go out there and pull a Dicker the kicker with all the confidence in the world? Something to keep an eye on for Texas. But again, if I had to grade Texas overall, I think that's the one area that gives me a little bit of pause is special teams. We've seen some mistakes. We've seen some things kind of rear its head up. That's the one area where I do have a little bit of nerves when I'm watching, going, okay, God, what are we gonna do? Are we good? Okay, good. We're good. All right, good return. All right, we're okay.
Yeah. And then we had Ratliff having to, come and punt and get his first experience in the biggest stage.
Oh, we have a
Right.
punter?
I'm sorry, what?
We have a punter?
Yeah. Did you know?
I haven't
Yeah.
met-
Kern
haven't
tried
met
to
the young
go,
man.
and Kern tried to go, but his first one was terrible. So they brought in Ratliff, and he did all right. I mean,
I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that as a knock on either guy. I meant
know.
that as our offense. We're either like scoring, kicking a field
oh
goal.
yeah, we don't read a punt
like,
very often, but in this
Right.
game, we
Right.
did.
Yeah.
All right. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, happy we didn't need him too much. Kicking a few times, but certainly an area that let's keep an eye on that. See what goes on with Texas
I think
special
you're right.
teams.
Well, I think y'all will agree the biggest story of the game was Cooper Manning's hat.
Listen, do you remember a few years ago that meme that happened where who was it? I think it was with the Mavs. I think it was Jason Kidd had that crazy like butterfly collar shirt on in a picture, and like people kept photoshopping the collar bigger and bigger and bigger. I want to see that with Cooper Manning's hat.
Yeah.
I want every game for Cooper Manning to show up in a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger hat. Like I just want
why
to
is
see
he
it.
still squinting when he has glasses and a hat? Like the sun must really be in his eyes.
The way that it's coming in, yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to being a gringo. Right, okay.
Do you remember one of
I'm
those
squinting right now because I have a light behind me.
one of those spoof scary movies? The scary movie spoofs. There was one where they were making fun of the movie Signs, and the sheriff comes, and every time she talks, her hat gets bigger and bigger and bigger. In the
That's
movie.
what I want to see.
That's what it would be. That's such a big hat.
I need that from Cooper Manning. I just want him. I want that hat to get to like epic proportions where it's like covering him and 10 of his closest friends.
Oh my God.
All right.
I do get the sense though that Cooper is definitely the dad who all Arch's buddies at 19 want to hang out with. It's like, dude, we're going. Hey, maybe not at 19.
He's the cool dad.
We're going somewhere where there may be alcohol. Do you want to come? Like, we actually want your dad coming because I've seen him around before, like just on video with stuff, and he just kind of seems like the cool dad. I know he's done real estate stuff here. So hey, what was the cartoon? Was it Speedy Gonzalez?
Speedy Gonzalez with the big sombrero.
Big
Yeah.
sombrero.
Yeah.
All right. So off that big win, Texas is now 6-0. We are bowl eligible. We're the #1 team in the country.
Thank God. I was worried. Thank God we're bowl eligible. I mean,
I know.
Bowl eligible. Can you believe that?
We've had years recently where we got there and it's like, hey.
We had years where we had to beat like Kansas or Tech to get bowl eligible.
This means something, you know.
Right. So looking ahead, we're going to do our full big preview of Georgia on Thursday, but today we'll just give a couple thoughts. Texas this weekend opened as the 2.5 point favorites over Georgia. Originally, earlier in the year, Georgia was favored by 2-3. Big swing to Texas now favored. Sark had some great comments about, Georgia being the standard and that just the impact that Georgia has had on college football and what the players that they draft recruits and championships and that them just being the standard. But in Austin, we got to bring DKR, make DKR rocking, he said, make it a home field advantage.
I agree. And Georgia's played in really tough ones, but he's not, it's not Lou Holtz talking up Navy like he used to do, and it's like, oh my God, it's Navy, the 93 Cowboys? I thought they were 1-4 this year. It's like, well, listen to Holtz. I mean, they have been the standard. So he can play with that. And in terms of the line, I guess that makes sense. I think it'll be a tight game, but I think eyeball-wise, people are looking at Georgia right now, and there are weird questions about their defense, which has certainly not been an issue for what seems like, 4 or 5 years at all.
Right. Yeah, I mean, looking at these stats again, Georgia just came off the Mississippi State game. I mean, Georgia gave up, like we mentioned earlier, 31 points to Mississippi State.
Yeah.
They gave up, 385 total yards to MSU. I mean, again, MSU was able to get some things going. They were producing. It's just like we saw against Texas, they just weren't finishing plays.
Right.
So I think that's something where there is a question. This certainly doesn't feel like the dominant Georgia team that we've seen the past couple of years. They haven't been playing that mistake-free football. They haven't been playing just totally dominant football. So I understand the line shift. I still think this is going to be a dogfight. Pardon the pun. It's going to be a dogfight in Texas. It's going to be a tough one at DKR. But again, we're talking, if Texas stays focused, if Texas handles business like they have been, focusing at the matter at hand, at the game on hand, I think we're going to see some good things out of Austin for sure.
I agree with that. One thing I will say that Carson Beck threw for 459. I know they had one kid suspended, although it wasn't for speeding. It was actually worse than that. But by the way, is there any way we can get all these roadsters that come in here, all these young kids that are taking over Burton Springs Road, to get them out on Friday night? We'll get all the Georgia kids out there, get half of them locked up for the game.
Well, listen, with F1 in town, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
Oh no, these Georgia kids are like. So they do these dragster things right down the road. And these guys from like Dallas and San Antonio and Houston take it over. It's really awesome.
That would be terrible.
And F1's in town. Oh,
just saying.
All right. Yeah, it is a crazy weekend this weekend in Austin. F1, people were talking about prices in hotels downtown charging over $1,000 a night for basic hotel rooms. How are they allowed to do that? Anyway, people can't even stay in Austin. They're staying in San Antonio and Waco and everywhere else. It's a crazy weekend. It's going to be a fun, big weekend. The last time Sugar Bowl was the last time that Texas played Georgia, and they were coming in. They were supposed to be in the championship game. They had the 2 NFL running backs. They had all the things, and Texas beat them up, and that was a great game. And that brought us this gem.
Longhorn Nation, we're back.
We did our intro. Oh, it reminds me I should switch hats.
The words that we haven't been able to live down in forever. Right, that's premature. We're back, but I think it's official to say Texas is back. We are where we should be.
We're back. We're back, baby.
They're definitely back. Now, that was Georgia. I mean, they did have some guys out and sitting out that game. I totally understand that, but that was a fun win. It started with Uga and Bevo. I wonder if Uga is going to come around. They're probably going to stay away this time and not deal with that.
They'll have a photo shoot. It's not going to be indoors, and it's that's the biggest thing. Don't let it be indoors, and the camera flashes bother 15 at night too. So maybe get your photo shoot out of the way before the nighttime game. That's all I'm saying.
I think you're right. Well, getting back to it though, I mean, the one thing you can say, Texas has been fantastic. So I mean, you could watch this and be like, they're being homers. Go look at the stats. They've given up 3 touchdowns. They've looked dominant at every level. And like any college football team or football team, Megan's right. There's been some things you got to clean up, and not everything's always been consistent or linear, but it's been pretty linear. But we really don't know, as great as they've been, as much love as I've given them, how great this secondary is against a legit passing attack. And Beck did go for 459 last week. And you can say what you want about Beck, and even that receiver being out, who's suspended, I believe he's going to be out. They've recruited talent there. And this is going to be the first legit test, because Michigan had a 8th grade passing offense, and Oklahoma just couldn't throw the ball. It was one read, and he's taken off,
Right.
So
by all counts, Georgia's the most complete team that Texas is going to take on so far.
Yep.
Oh, with NFL talent everywhere.
Right.
The thing about Georgia, at least the last few games, like Alabama, they had a terrible first half, fight their way back, and even take the lead in the second half, but it's too late. And then then you see the very next week, Mississippi State, they come flying out strong, take a big lead, and then here comes the Carson Beck that throws the interceptions. The way he started Alabama is the way he ended Mississippi State, but they had, built up a lead and hung on and pulled away. So it's what half are you going to get from him? And are you going to get 2 good halves? You're going to get 1 bad half, 1 good half. Don't sleep on him if you get a big lead. Don't, this is still a big team. He's the leader of the team. And as like Sark always says, how the QB goes, the team goes. It feels very much that way when Carson Beck's got the ball, but he's still experienced. He knows he needs the big win. I feel like Georgia is coming in with so much at stake, especially because they already have a loss in the SEC. If you want to get to the SEC title game or even the playoffs, they can't afford another loss because they still have Tennessee and Ole Miss to go. So Texas, this is our chance to say big stage, big, dominant team in the SEC. All the people who said Georgia at Texas is going to be one of the SEC defining moments of the season. We get College Game Day. We have a night game. We have all the recruits. Jerry Hamilton from On Texas says there's going to be over 40 5- and 4-star recruits at this game so far, right? That said they're going to be there. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be an atmosphere. But do you think it's going to be the loudest that we've ever seen DKR?
Ever? Oh, I don't know. The Alabama game a couple years back was crazy. LSU a few years back, what was that, 2019, was crazy. Notre Dame was crazy. I think it's definitely going to be up there, top 3 loudest for sure.
Nothing.
What's that?
90 Houston. Nothing.
Yeah. The last time we rushed the field,
West Virginia was loud, like 2012 or whatever, and all the games you mentioned. Hell, A&M was really loud that year.
But there weren't as many people, and it wasn't closed in yet.
Right.
I know. But
closed in with twice the people.
But it was the 80s, and people were on a lot of stuff. We didn't have the inhibitions and rules and restrictions we do now.
And beers didn't cost $98, so.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you know what? That's actually more the answer right there, Rocky. It's like, actually, they had double more the alcohol. Why?
Because they were sneaking it in versus.
Right.
They weren't paying student loans.
Yeah, they weren't paying student loans, and beers cost $1.50.
Right. Yeah. I think that DKR is going to be rocking. I think Texas fans will go up. And part of that, too, is the morale is so high, even among fans.
Yeah.
Again, Texas is 6-0 for the first time in how long? We're feeling good again. We're feeling ourselves, right? We're feeling good about our team. I think it's going to be an insane atmosphere.
And the good time anytime you start a run, I laughed about this. Like I saw it with Westlake fans after they had won, for 8 straight years, and they were in that run like in the late 90s. And the fans it's just hard. You can laugh at who I just mentioned and say, oh, they're entitled. Shocking. But Nebraska fans got entitled. Georgia fans have been it's just natural as a sports fan that when you have this incredible run, like anything, the beginning is always the most special because you're so happy to be there. So I think that Texas will be really loud. I think that the fans will be really loud. And it's not like if Texas won 2 or 3 in a row and someone comes in and it's like, all right, I hope we can get them loud, I hope we can get them in the seats, to where the entitlement hasn't totally kicked in there.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we've hit that point yet. It'll be a little bit till we do in the SEC.
Nadia wants to say hi to you.
Hi, Nadia. How are you doing?
She wants to show you this thing she made.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Put it closer to the camera.
Oh, is it a mirror?
Yeah, it's clay.
I
did the little clay flowers and then I glued them all on. It's taken me all day.
Nice.
But I did it. And it's a little rainbow.
That's really beautiful.
Hey, did you get like a Native American tat here? What's going on?
Oh no, I did that myself.
She's doing her henna.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Look at
surprise appearance by Nadia.
Your voice and wanted to. She heard your voice and wanted to say hi.
I love her. You guys are always making stuff.
Crappiest family ever, I swear.
No, they are. I mean, like they could survive in 1840. If I was in 1840, I got 18 hours left, maybe. Like I could maybe go hunt and then cook it. That's about it. That's all I could bring to the table.
All right. So we will have our big Georgia breakdown on Thursday. It's going to be so fun. We're getting closer. But actually, Thursday, I will be in New Orleans to go to the New Orleans Saints game. And so I will be a part again, but we'll be chatting. I'll be there for the first hour. And I think, Megan, you have a guest lined up to join you for the game. Do you want to say who that is?
Oh, we're still finalizing, so
okay. Well,
I don't want to give it away too much, so
okay,
I want to make sure that
you have a fun guest lined up. So let's wrap up our conversation today. So we have just a quick thing about Texas athletics. Lots happening. Women's soccer also beat OU this past weekend. A couple of cool things. Some of the preseason rankings are coming out. Men's basketball opens at number 18. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other seven SEC teams in the top 30. So that's going to be fun next year. Basketball is going to be good. Texas baseball.
Oh, Texas baseball is kicking ass. I mean,
number 6 in the early rankings. You're talking about recruiting. Go ahead.
I'm talking about the future. I haven't been this pumped about a coaching staff or the direction. And it's weird. Friends will talk to me. And I'm like, wait a minute. Did I sound depressed talking about Texas baseball before? I don't think I did. Maybe I did.
We all did.
Okay. I mean, but I was trying to be positive. I was rooting for the team. It's like,
of course.
And there were certain guys I loved. I mean, I certainly wasn't negative a couple of years ago, but there's just something different when it's rolling the way it is. And I think he's got the best recruiting coordinator, Nolan Kane. He's got, as I've talked about, like a Billy Bean-esque, he's a GM, but pitching coach. Like this guy has been doing new stuff. And
honest to God, like pitching coach?
Exactly. I know. Isn't that amazing? And then you lose the hitting coach, who's a damn good one, who's now going to be the head coach at A&M, and you replace him with Troy Tulowitzki, who honestly I would have kind of wanted instead. Not that guy's not a good pitching coach because he's proven it. We'll see what it's like as a head coach building a program. But so I'm so it's like every day they're signing Mike Trout. Now just get him onto campus.
Right. Well, and that's been a big shift too. We know if for those of you guys that listen to the show and have been here, you heard me harp on pitching last year just constantly. Pitching was the huge problem for Texas, and it became, we got a couple different coaches in that ended up being, the pitching coaches ended up being kind of scapegoats for Coach Pierce. And again, I have no ill will towards Coach Pierce. I wish him the best wherever he goes and wherever he lands. And by the
way, he did a relatively good job. If this wasn't the number 1 overall program of all time with the pressure, I'd be dead serious. Like he could have done that in basketball here and been fine.
Right. The expectations are different at Texas with Texas baseball. And so, and going into the SEC, I'm not going to lie, I was worried. I was concerned with the trajectory and what Texas was doing. And it just felt like we weren't getting over the hump. We weren't improving on pitching. It was getting worse. And going into the SEC, you can't play like that. You can't. You've got to have a bullpen. You've got to have strong arms. And so with this coaching change, I feel like there's just
baseball is going to be more deeper than SEC basketball and football this year.
Yeah, SEC baseball is better than SEC football, and I'll stand on that. I'll die on that hill. It's crazy, and so but it is amazing just how quickly that shift happened of going, this could be a rough few years, and then all of a sudden we get Coach Schloss, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. And then we start picking up players and start gaining steam there. And now I'm feeling pretty good going into it. Again, I still think there's going to be some adjustment time for Texas to develop and the guys to figure out like where they're at. But, with the guys that we have returning and some of the kids that Schloss is bringing in and just the expertise, he has historically turned around programs pretty quickly. Again, I don't want to talk too much baseball right now, but, he went to A&M and within 3 years had him in Omaha. A&M, for God's sake. Like
he got TCU to Omaha.
Right. Consistently, more than Texas. I mean, it was impressive. So very excited about that. It's fun to watch him roll I'm very excited for the future of Texas baseball.
I like how Kevin's on. He's like cats are like security guards. He's on like his hour shift, and I'm realizing that was like an hour ago, and he's in the same spot.
Yeah.
All right.
She likes
All right.
it.
So you guys, y'all can talk all the baseball. All right. So volleyball, number one in the SEC, another sweep of another SEC team, this time at Kentucky. I think this one's really special to me. Texas women's rugby last Friday night played the Aggies in Round Rock and beat them 99-5.
What? Talk about belt to ass.
99-5. So my little ladies have grown up. They're whooping that Aggie butt. When I first started coaching there, Aggies were the best team in Texas by far, and they beat us up pretty good. Not 99-5 though. All right.
And for those that don't know, Rocky was actually the very first head coach for Texas women's rugby. So really awesome there. Good history. Turns out you know your stuff.
I do. So I'll share this. Bijan Robinson, if you are a fan of the show Outer Banks, apparently he's filming in the new season of Outer Banks. I've never seen the show Outer Banks, but he's filming there, and they're out in I guess they're out in the Outer Banks.
I've heard of it.
And there's Bijan.
Yeah, I'm guessing Outer Banks, North Carolina, right?
I don't know.
And I've heard of it. I haven't watched it, but I've heard of it. If I've heard of it, that means it's getting some acclaim. But it just goes to show you with Bijan. Like Bijan's going to be like, when I say this, he's going to be like a Jordan-like type guy where you look at what he made on the field and it's going to be a joke to what he made off, because this guy is going to be involved in so much stuff because people want to work with him. He shows up on time. He's a nice guy. He's talented. He's fun to talk to. He's, what don't you like?
Thank you. Richard brought me something.
Look at Richard.
That's service.
What's up, KD?
Yo, hey, how was the pizza?
Excelente.
The pizza was amazing.
Okay.
So great news. Jonathan Brooks, we remember he was injured late last season at the TCU game. The most special moment, I think, was with the Big 12 championship game, where he came out onto the field just to be part of the game. The team included him when the game was at hand. He's still the number one running back drafted in the NFL last year, based off his performance before his injury. He is returning to the field this week. So what a comeback.
Good. That is all. Think about this, y'all. We were talking about Quintravion and Jaden and, cheers. Our RB1, RB2, and, which is fine. And I get it. It's nice to be having that discussion as opposed to will a DB look up and find where the ball is, and some of the discussions we've been having. I'll take that discussion. But think about how lucky Texas is with 3 really damn good running backs and 2 that could start. Compared, the last 2 years, they've lost Bijan, Roshan, Keelan, and Jonathan Brooks, and they're all on NFL rosters. They've lost 4 NFL running backs in 2 years. I know you got the portal, but that's pretty impressive that they're even in this spot.
Agreed. I think the argument could be made that Texas is RBU, the most Doak Walker Award winners of any school.
Should have got this one last year.
Right. So yeah, we're very fortunate to be so deep there and to have such incredible talent. So, but yes, it is great to see Brooks back, expected back at least. And I think it'll be interesting to see because he's on a team that he will have an immediate impact.
Yeah, you're right.
And it'll be obvious pretty quickly what he's doing for the team and how he's helping out. So good luck to him.
Unfortunately, he's on a terrible team.
Right, but it makes his impact felt even more.
Yes.
Right, more obvious.
Hopefully, yeah. All right, and Malik Jefferson got his truck stolen. That's terrible. So if you've seen a blue 2500 Ram and he puts his plates up, so now everyone's going to know where he lives too. Help him find his truck.
It's rough. At this point, though, that thing's already in the chop shop. It doesn't have that plate on it anymore. There's no question. That came off first thing.
Terrible. All right. So let's Okay, just had to share what's happening with some of the Longhorns. All right, let's go quickly through. We'll wrap up soon because we've been going a long time. I mean, we could talk all night, but we should go on forever. 11 undefeated teams remain in college football. There's 9 teams that are already bowl eligible. There is a new top 25 that was just released. I'll share it with you. The AP top 25. And Texas, of course, was number 1. Oregon, that big win at home against Ohio State, put them to number 2. What do you think about Penn State jumping up to 3? We'll talk about that.
I mean, first off, that guy right there, Tyler Warren, number 44, is one of the most impressive college football players I've ever seen. And I'm watching that. I've been watching him all year. He has played 4 or 5 different positions. He's a tight end and a pretty good one, actually really damn good one, has set records at Penn State. He's played offensive line, he's played quarterback, he's played receiver, and he's played running back and fullback. So
he's a football player.
He's a football player, but they rely on him way too much. I know they've got 2 running backs that are pretty talented guys. One, Singleton may have been injured. And then Drew Aller's got a big arm. I'm still not buying him. He's better this year, but I'm not buying Penn State. USC should have won that game. USC's got to be kicking themselves.
USC blew a lead. Yeah. So Georgia, top 5 coming to Austin this Saturday. Miami with no defense, but they were off, so they got to go up. Alabama is still top 7. LSU survived at home in overtime, so they go to 8. That was too big of a jump, I think. Iowa State, Clemson, they're back in it. And then the rest of the top 25, still lots of Big 12, lots of SEC, and still undefeated Army Navy. They probably finally got brave and ranked them 23 and 25.
I think, we've been talking about college football being wide open, but usually when we do that, we're not talking about the top 3 or 4 of the richest houses in the neighborhood, and it's like, outside of Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State, man, everyone's really close and anyone could beat anyone. I feel like we're finding, and I think part of it's with the NIL and transfer portal and guys, and I don't want to wait at all going to places, and South Carolina's like, hey, maybe we can't spend Texas money, but I can buy you 3 really good gifts. You're not getting 10, but I can spend money on 3. And so they're getting some impact players. But I also think the new clock that I continue to harp on, which I thought would create more upsets, of course it will. There are less plays and the game goes by quicker. So you're seeing 19-14, where if you had more shots at the dartboard, the favorite, more talented team probably wins. But, man, you look at that top 25, it's wide open, y'all. Wide ass open. Yeah.
It really is crazy. We've talked, and see, I knew I liked you, Katie. I knew that certified ball knower over here. I was mentioning that earlier on a previous show. It really, to me, seems the impact of NIL and that transfer portal is creating more parity, right? Yep. There's certainly more opportunities for schools that might not have had the chances before. The haves and the have-nots. Still, financially, there's some differences, but that gap is closing a little bit because exactly like you said, there are schools that are able to pick up some key players that can make a big difference overall on the team. Maybe not buy the whole team, but they got a few key guys that they can get in. So I love seeing it. I think it's a lot of fun. We're starting to see, again, Oklahoma changing out their coach with Venables. Not convinced he's the guy there, but Kirby Smart's starting to show a little bit of, what's going on? Georgia isn't the powerhouse that they've been, consistently. Obviously, Nick Saban retiring as well. So there's definitely been some shakeups in college football. And I think college football is better for it.
Yeah, I don't think Kirby Smart's going anywhere. And I don't think Venables will this year. But I think the writing's on the wall, at least for me. And it's early writing. But one thing I'll say about OU is that one thing they've had crappy coaches in my lifetime, our lifetime. I mean, they've had John Blake, they've had Gary Gibbs, who's okay, Howard Schnellenberger, but they usually rip the Band-Aid off quicker than we do. And I'm curious when they get to that, because they're still drinking the Colt juice right now, which I'm a little surprised.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. And I wonder if Venables, is he getting an extra pass because of his history with OU, because of who he is? Is he going to be looked at the same way other coaches would? Are they using the same measuring stick?
Fair.
So, yeah, listen, if it's up to me, extend Venables 10 years. Go the Jimbo Fisher route.
Sign him to a long, yeah.
They did extend him a little bit already.
That is always a telltale sign. We've been on that side when people are saying, "Hey, up Charlie Strong to a 10-year deal," and it's like, oh,
yeah, exactly.
When my rival's telling me that,
Yeah. So Ohio State, we saw they went to Oregon. It was an exciting game, back and forth game. Oregon held on at home. Ohio State dropped all the way to 4. Georgia, even though they lost to Bama, is still ranked ahead of them at 5, and Bama's at 7. It's that ugly Vandy loss that they just figured losing at home. I mean, Alabama surviving at home, but then going on the road to Vanderbilt still makes them worse than the team that they beat, I guess.
Yeah, and then also got to remember Alabama could have easily lost this week. I watched that whole game. Alabama's got issues defensively. I think they're trying to figure out if they want to be a 3 or 4-man front, and not most teams can't go Belichick and run 19 different styles of defense and prep that in 2 days. And it's like, 3-3-5, we can run that. 5-2, here you go. It takes time to implement that and to get all the guys on the same page.
Yes. Yeah, Bama survived South Carolina at home.
They very easily could have lost that game, Rocky.
Yeah, I was cheering for South Carolina like the rest of the world. Tennessee goes to overtime against Florida, so they drop out of the top 10. They survive. And the game I picked, I said LSU would win, that they would beat Ole Miss at home. They did in overtime.
You've been on fire.
She has been.
And I picked Oregon to beat Ohio State, even though Ohio State was favored. Georgia, we both said Mississippi State would cover but not win at Georgia, and they did. We thought that cover was way too big for an SEC cover. It was another 30-something point spread, and Georgia won by 10 at home.
That's another thing with the possessions and the total plays. That affects gambling too. I don't have 110 plays to cover 38. I may be living hell out of you, but like the last 5 minutes, I'm just going to run it out and we're up 31, whatever.
30 plus points is a lot. I don't care who it is. That is a lot. That's a crazy point spread.
Yeah. A couple of other big upsets, even though Vanderbilt, they were 13-point dogs at Kentucky and they won again. They're still on a roll. Hopefully ends.
Diego Pavia for president. That's who I'm writing in a couple of weeks. All right. Diego Pavia.
They get like Ball State Women of the Poor this week, so practically a bye before Texas comes to them next weekend. And then Arizona State had a great, even though they were 4-1 and Utah was like 4-0 or something like that, even though they were both good, similar ranked teams, they rushed the field for beating Utah. Arizona State won. I mean, that's good old college fun. This weekend, we're not going to pick these games yet but if you have any thoughts about one that you just really want to say something about, Katie, 7 Alabama goes to 11 Tennessee. A&M goes to Mississippi State. 8 LSU goes to Arkansas. Any thoughts about those big games this weekend? SEC ranked matchups.
So this will be funny because Bama's defense, outside of the first half against Georgia, they haven't looked that great. I mean, look, even the South Florida game, if you watch that, they poured on a bunch late. They have not looked as good as you would think. And look, I thought DeBoer was the right hire. It's still very early on. You're going to have to give him time following literally the GOAT. That can't be easy. But Tennessee's offense, they haven't been the same. And they haven't been as explosive as they were. That Josh Heupel offense has felt different. So something's got to give there. But I guess I'd probably lean with Alabama, but I don't trust this Alabama team like obviously I trusted the Saban teams, but this Tennessee team is not the explosive dynamo we saw the last couple of years. At least they haven't been so far.
Yeah, it just feels like they're inconsistent. Early on they put up 70, but then they struggle with Florida. It's a crazy thing. Again, we're seeing just that inconsistent. There hasn't felt like there has been one team this year that's just holy crap running away with it, crazy good at everything. Texas, to me, would be the team that is the closest to that. And like we talked about earlier, there's been some inconsistencies with Texas's play as well. So, yeah, I think the one that interests me the most out of these, number 8, LSU at Arkansas.
I was just looking at that, Megan.
That's a good one.
I think that's one that's going to be telling, right? I think Arkansas has shown some flashes. They're not ranked, but, I've had them as Texas's potential trap game. That can be a tough place to play. The Pigs can be, again, Arkansas has shown some flashes of having some ability to play good football. And while I thought LSU looked really good, I'm still not convinced that they're good enough to be consistent all the time. So I think this is going to be a really big test for LSU, and how that game turns out is going to tell us a lot about both of these programs.
I think that's a great point. Now, Arkansas could have beaten A&M. Arkansas could be in a much different spot right now. And it did feel like this was going to be Pittman's final run, but it's a physical team. Jaquindon Jackson, the former Texas quarterback who went to Utah, is now their starting running back. But it's kind of, it reminds you of good Arkansas teams that have been in the SEC, or dangerous ones.
Dangerous ones for sure.
Yeah. And then LSU, their defense was so bad last year. It's gotten better this year. They had a long way to go. And Nussmeier's better than most of us thought Garrett Nussmeier was ever going to be. He can make some throws. He's still inconsistent, but he's more talented than I thought. But I think like the Alabama-Tennessee game, we're going to really find out who these teams are. And that's kind of where it gets fun. You get to this spot. One other game, Michigan-Illinois. Michigan's a 3-point favorite in Champaign-Urbana. I know Illinois just came off a 50-49 game, and they're not great. I ain't buying this Michigan team. I would lay Illinois, and I think Illinois beats them straight up.
Wow. All right. Yeah. Illinois is playing better football than they have in a long time. They're still undefeated, right?
It's Indiana that's still undefeated.
Indiana. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Illinois played some good. Yeah. Okay. Illinois has been playing better ball than the Fighting Illini than I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
So.
And by the way, we're going to find out just how tight this SEC is when A&M goes to 1-5 Starkville. The Cowbells will be going. A&M looked really damn good against Missouri. I mean, that looked like a team that you do not, I wasn't looking forward to going to College Station after seeing that team. Let's see how consistent they are. Let's see if Wegman can reproduce that. Their defense has been great, but Mississippi State is a physical football team, and they're going to try and shorten this game.
Yep, and they're game planning well. I don't care for Jeff Levy, period, but
against us,
they absolutely did, and they had a great game plan against Georgia too. So I think Levy's onto some stuff. I think he is going to get that program turned around. Now, can they do it this season? Can they do it against A&M? Not sure, but I agree that's going to be another game to keep an eye on. Texas has a good gauge of who Mississippi State is, versus us playing them. So I think that'll tell us a lot about the Aggies as well.
I just feel like, Rocky, I feel like South Carolina, Mississippi State, Vandy, Kentucky, they all have big upsets in them this year. And we've already seen Vandy and Kentucky punch those. And I guess South Carolina did too, didn't they, on one of those? Where they almost did this last weekend. But I think you're going to see Mississippi State catch someone, and you're going to run 62 plays each. And there's going to be 4 turnovers, and they're going to win 19-17.
It's going to be some crazy score.
Right.
Yeah, we talked about this last week that Mississippi State was actually averaging, I don't even remember what the number was, 300 or close to around 300 yards passing a game in the last 5, taking out their, not counting the FCS game they played, which was ridiculous numbers. But they actually have a pretty solid passing game, and Van Buren is getting better every week. Did you see Kirby Smart shoved him?
Yes.
I have the video. Anyway,
they gave that. I don't remember doing it.
That Kirby Smart shoved him?
I read this, so I didn't see audio, but it said that Kirby said that he didn't remember doing it.
Oh, well, he was trying to come up to the ref, and I'll look for it. Anyway, what I was going to say is Mississippi State has an opportunity against A&M if they can throw the ball on because we know Aggies are strong up front. Let's see what their corners have against this passing game and see what they can get. But I have a feeling that they're going to do that same control the clock stuff that they wanted to do to Texas that got away from them.
Agreed. And they're going to be at home, but should be another fun weekend, y'all. It's all, I mean, I think I was a little apprehensive. Just wanted to see how it played out with everything being new. But I mean, it's still, the good thing is they may have changed all the other stuff when we actually get on Saturday and get into the games. Outside of the clock being an issue for me, it still feels like college football, you know?
There's him shoving the guy.
Yeah.
You see him. That's Van Buren. That's Kirby Smart coming up and shoving him, coming up to the ref. And he just comes and shoves him.
I mean, that's just, you know, yeah, that's.
But don't worry, he won't be punished. Don't worry.
Well, he doesn't remember it. Didn't happen if he doesn't remember it.
Then it doesn't matter that we have video.
Right. That's not me.
Anyway, all right. We've been going a long time. We can talk
guys,
about it. We got to wrap up. Since we're not going to see you Thursday, Katie, do you have a score prediction for the game? Have you thought about it yet?
On Monday? I mean, how dare y'all? I really don't have a score prediction. I'll give y'all one so y'all can give it out. But I think it'll be super tight. I love Texas' chances. I mean, the reality is, one thing I will say, I just said college football hadn't changed much. As long as Texas loses respectably, you know, I want them to win, but it could be a moot point. These teams could face each other 2 other times, maybe 1 other time. And so it's a really important game and it's a measuring stick. But there's also, it's not like it used to be in the day that if we don't win this thing, we may get sniffed out. You know, there's still, getting back to Rocky's point, it's actually more important for Georgia. It's more important for Texas as a program overall, where we're at 2024 right now, where we're at October 14th. It's more important for Georgia. They can't afford more losses.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
So do you have a score prediction? We lose respectfully without your score.
I mean, God, I'm getting harassed here. No, I don't. I do not. I will give y'all one. Give me time.
Well, send it to us and we'll
guy. The problem is I'll give a Monday score. I'll give a Monday score, and then I will be texting y'all Thursday.
This is my prediction. We're back. That's my prediction.
All right. Well, give us that score prediction, and we'll say it live on the show on Thursday. But Katie, we always appreciate you being here, man. We always have fun with you. Like, as you can tell with us going long like this.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can tell we just love bullshitting. And
let's take a picture.
I love y'all.
All right. I need that. All right.
How did you did you just take a picture of?
I just screen captured.
Okay.
All right. Again, thank you, Katie, so much. We talked about everything.
We did. I love y'all. Y'all be good. Good luck on Thursday. And I mean, let's just eat this up. I mean, because Austin's like going to be the biggest spot in the country this weekend, and UT football is. I mean, they were always relevant, but I think we can say that win or lose this game, they're back.
Absolutely.
They're back.
Absolutely. We appreciate you, Katie. All right, y'all. Bye, y'all. All right. As always, y'all, we appreciate you being here. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Again, we are Fire the Cannon Podcast on YouTube and on Insta and Twitter. We are at Fire the Cannon and the number 1. Again, we appreciate the follow. We love you all being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. As always, I'm Megan.
I'm Rocky.
And we are Fire the Cannon. We'll see y'all Thursday.